Wow. Wow. My honest reaction. Indeed.
Kevin, I'm swamped right now. You know the drill.
All right, that's Ghostrunner 2. So, forewarning, I did get this game for free. They gave me a key, the devs, which is very nice of them. Very cool. I really liked the original game, Ghostrunner 1, and I was cautiously optimistic for the second game. But when I saw that it was basically using a lot of reused stuff from the original in the marketing materials and stuff, and it was announced so close after the release of the first game, I was skeptical, and for good reason, because there's a lot of things in the first game that needed some work, but everything that needed work in the first game needed way more work in the second game. So the first game, I really liked it because mechanically it's just a super solid game, and it seemed like it knew what it was for the most part. Like, there's a lot of, you know, there's like no downtime. You just play the game, you know, like you're just doing combat all the time. There's occasionally some cutscenes, but they're all skippable. There's like 3 boss fights and they all kind of sucked, but they weren't that bad. They were like, okay, right? But it didn't really overstay their welcome too much. The Cyber Void was like pretty bad, but you could skip it with level replays and stuff, but the base gameplay was really fun. And had some great pacing to it too. But dude, Ghostrunner 2, base drop. I feel like it's just worse in every single way than the original. I'm sorry to say. Except for, I feel like the writing was a little bit better, like the story was better. Because I literally was laughing my ass off at the narrative in the first one. And in the second one, I was just like, I just didn't care. It went from like, you know, in the first one, I'm like actively making fun of the narrative. And the second one, I just don't care. Which is not like a huge step up, but like it's a step up, right? And this game, the pacing was pretty bad, yeah. Like, I never really felt like the game hit its stride. It felt like it was just introducing new mechanics to me the entire time, but never actually like making me like test and use them like to their highest ability, or like, it never felt like I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm using every mechanic that I had in the game and I'm like mastering them. I felt like it was just always giving you new mechanics, and all of the mechanics felt half-baked. Like, none of them felt like super polished. Like the first game, a lot of them felt like a couple, like 2 or 3 of the abilities like felt like kind of half finished, but like the core ones that you use for the most of the game felt really solid, and it felt really smooth. Like the whole gameplay was like pretty seamless, and you could just play through the whole game and have some real good fun and like get into a flow state, you know? But in this game, I felt like there was obviously the endless dialogue, just like the original, where people just yapping and yapping and yapping. Characters that like, you don't know why they're important or why you should care. You don't know what you're doing or why, you know, in like the greater scheme of things. The dialogue and the delivery on the voice lines is not that great. The dialogue especially is pretty bad. The story, like I wasn't really paying attention to it, but it didn't seem very good. The gameplay, like the core gameplay is still great, but there's a lot of stuff that feels kind of half-baked and just like tacked on and not as polished. Like the wingsuit, or like some of the other abilities, and the way they balance the abilities is weird. And then this game, the biggest problem with it is there's way too many cooks in the kitchen. Like it cooks sometimes, but like there's like 12 cooks in this kitchen. There's so much going on. It's like, all right, so we're gonna do like regular Ghostrunner stuff, but also there's gonna be like 3 subplots going on, and then on top of that, we're gonna have a bike that has like completely unique gameplay mechanics, and you're going to be able to seamlessly transition from the bike to playing as Ghostrunner, which is cool, but never really feels like it was totally polished. And then it's like, okay, now that we're in the bike, we're going to go outside. And this really disorienting bike section that is like the first section where you're on the bike is really disorienting, but then after that it gets fine, you know. But then like now it's an open world section where you have 3 different places to go to and you can go to any one of them. But the open world runs like shit. Every time you're outside, the game just runs terribly. Like I have a 4080. I'm playing at 1440, but I have a 4080 and I was like chugging. Like I definitely dropped below 60 in some spots, like for sure. And I really never felt like the rooms got to like that super fun like flow state combat section, like basically ever. And the bike was like really jank in the open world sections. Yeah, I could never tell what I was doing or why, like just like following the waypoint markers and just killing stuff. One big upside, the cyber void is way better in this game because you could dash in the cyber void and you use your abilities and everything, and it looks less bad. But there's still a lot of sections where it's like, okay, now break these things in this order, or puzzle stuff, and then like, okay, you kill a wave of enemies, and now you stand here and watch some NPCs talk. But like, I just don't care about the story at all. So watching the NPCs talk is just ass. And then they're adding stuff like the whole time, even till the very end, like they're adding the wingsuit. But yeah, it just doesn't feel polished. And you never got a moment where you're like, okay, I'm doing like the bike and the wingsuit at the same time and using all of my mechanics, and like I'm really hitting the flow state and like things are getting going. Like the end of Ghostrunner 1, it really gets going. Like you're using everything. It feels like, you know, you're hitting the flow state, but I don't really feel like that happened in this game. Also, there's like this weird like hub world RPG section, like Bethesda section, where you like go talk to different NPCs and get different information and backstory and lore. And there might even be side quests. I don't know. I couldn't tell. But like the dialogue is so stilted and awkward, and it just like doesn't need to exist. Like you're like finally getting into the flow state and like finally getting to like have some extended period of combat, and then it's like, okay, back to the hub world, go walk around and talk to people, you know. It's just like, who cares? And then the ending is hilariously bad. It doesn't feel like it climaxes at all. The music in the original is way better. I feel like it's got a bigger variety and is used way more effectively. It like builds up to this crescendo at the end of the game, but this one does not at all. Honestly, the music made it feel like things were dying down near the end of the game. I was genuinely afraid the game was gonna keep going because the music was dying down. And then you beat the final boss, and there's like a cutscene where you kill him in a cutscene, and nothing is explained. Like that's like it. The game's over, right? Like it was building up to this narratively that you kill this guy, and then you just have no idea what you're supposed to do, and it just spawns you in the hub world. It's like, okay, now go walk around and talk to everybody. So instead of there being like a cutscene where Ghostrunner says goodbye to everybody and decides he's gonna leave Dharma City, you just have to do it in the hub world. You just have to walk around and talk to every NPC before you can beat the game. Like, instead of like beating the final boss and then there's a cutscene and then like credits roll, it's like you beat the final boss and then you walk around the hub world and say goodbye to everybody, and then you leave and then the credits play, which is just hilarious. Like it's so dumb. It makes no fucking sense. I laughed out loud. But final score, it's like a 5 out of 10 probably. I wouldn't recommend it. Play the original, it's better in like every way. There is some cool stuff though. Like I think level select is probably pretty fun. Oh, I fell out of bounds a couple times just playing the game. I wasn't even looking for out of bounds. Level select is probably pretty fun. There's like in the hub world, there's like a challenge mode where it's like a roguelike where you have like a certain amount of lives and you kill a bunch of enemies and do a bunch of platforming, and it gives you like a skill tree where you collect new upgrades to make going through the like bloody palace type thing better or easier. And I think I played that like for one level. I thought it was fun. That's probably more fun than the actual game, to be honest. In their defense, this is like a pre-day one patch. Game comes out tomorrow, but this keybind menu is atrocious. It won't. So in the hub, I had to use B to walk forward because I couldn't bind E because it's already in use. Because the dialogue box key bindings are not changeable, but also overlap these key bindings. So like, because E is confirmed in the dialogue box, I can't bind E to move forward in the hub. And like, getting to be able to change these keybinds was such a pain in the ass. It actually took me like an hour before I started stream. Because I play ESCF for movement. But I literally had to use B to move around in the hub because I couldn't change the binding. Also, there's a bunch of stuff where like, you have 3 abilities: Shuriken, the decoy, and then Tempest, which is 1 less than the original game. And like, they're all bound to their own individual keys, but then you have to press a different key to activate them. So like 1, 2, and 3 are bound to those respectively, but then you have to press mouse 4 to use them. But that's actually more key binds than just binding them all to their own key and then using them on the key press. That's obviously a thing that they did because controllers, but it would have been nice to see an option for that, because the amount of times I died to just like not switching and doing that correctly because it's just a weird bind setup. Also, the game performed kind of poorly. I had everything set to epic though, and playing at 1440p, but I am on a 4080. Every time I was outside, I had some pretty bad chugging. Oh, and the game crashed once. But I don't know. I guess main point, I'm most disappointed that they didn't lean into the strengths of the original, which was the core gameplay mechanics. I would have much rather had them implement 1 or 2 new mechanics, like just the bike and just the wingsuit, and kept everything else the same, and then just really refine the level design and the combat encounters. Like, the boss fights are way better in this game. I think the boss fights in this game are actually pretty good. All of them except for the final boss. I think all of the boss fights are really solid. So like, I think if they just added like the bike and the wingsuit, kept all the core mechanics from the original, you know, not done the hub section, and just like really refined, you know, the boss fights, really refined the level design and stuff, and like the pacing, it would have been really like phenomenal. I think it'd be like a 9 out of 10 game, but unfortunately they prioritized narrative storytelling and adding way too many mechanics. It's just feature creep the game. It's what it feels like. It just feature creep the game. They just kept adding and adding and adding stuff, but never actually, they didn't come back around at the end and try to make sure that the overall experience was one that's like really solid. You know, that the pacing was good and that everything leaned into the strengths of the game. And because of that, I'm definitely not gonna play it again. They have a $10,000 speedrun bounty for this game that's open for like 2 weeks or whatever, Moist Critical style. And I'm letting you know right now, this is gonna be a dog shit speedrun because there was a lot of waiting around for people to stop talking. And the hub section and the bike sections with really bad checkpoints, I ain't doing that shit. But thank you for giving me a game code. I'm sorry I tore your game apart, but it had its moments. It was quite fun. I think there's a lot of promise there. They definitely stepped up like the boss fights, 100%. Way, way, way better. And there's really some cool ideas there, but I think the execution's lacking on the overall front. That being said, I'm done for the day. It's late. I didn't mean to stream this late, but I wanted to finish the game, so I didn't have to play it tomorrow.